everyone, welcome back to Planet Coaster 2 and welcome to Samkhya. This is a one-off build for a B&M Floorless coaster and I wanted to try my hands at some Indian style architectural theming for, just because it's something different. I wanted to see what else I could do with the pieces in game, see if this theme was possible, and it turns out that it is. Thanks to the very versatile pieces in the game. You can see that I'm starting to put a few things together here, just to get the idea of the sort of style that I wanted. I did originally build a coaster layout in this map that you can see I'm in, but I wasn't happy with it at all, even though I spent about 2 hours doing it, which is rather frustrating. So in the end I just blueprinted this piece that I put together here, which is going to form part of the station. And I started fresh in a brand new map, so you'll see it cut in just a sec to a new map. But I was quite happy with how this was looking, despite not being happy with the coaster. So out of sort of 3 hours work, I got maybe about 40 minutes worth that was actually useful. But sometimes that's just how it goes when you build in games like this. It's better to start again and try and work on something you're actually happy with than carry on with something that you're not. So here's the map that we're actually working in. I just placed down a station and a lift hill. We're going to work on the layout a little bit later on because I wanted to start by theming up the station, or at least get the sort of front facade done. And I decided to go for the shortest station platform, which obviously for sort of in-game operations isn't really the best thing to do, but it worked better for the theming and how the station looks, because if it's too long it just wasn't looking right with the pieces that I'm using. So we're sticking with the short station and it looks a lot better. The pieces that I'm using then, so quite a lot of the trims, in fact this whole build was made up with so many trims. I got to the point that I was just going into the scenery browser and typing in trim into the search and using all the different pieces. Some of them are from the mythology pack, some of them are from the Viking pack, and there's loads of really cool triangle pieces and various different sort of decorative shapes and stuff that you can use and sink into these different trim pieces and combine several different trims, and that works out really well for this Indian style architecture, like maybe you'd see on some sort of palaces and stuff like that. So that's really how I put this together. To get the inside shape for in between each of the pillars, I just used, I can't actually remember what piece that is, but it's like a corner piece and it's made of wood, but it works absolutely fine just for making this shape, the curved sort of shape, which is very sort of typical in this style of architecture. And you can see I've sunk in a couple of pillars as well. I think they are like hydrants or something. They're definitely not supposed to be what I've used them for here, but they worked out fine. And then I really liked this mythology trim piece that I've used for the base of this, for the sort of trim along the base of the station, and using the darkened sort of pink colour. That's something that we're going to repeat quite a bit in the build. Now these are sort of the set colours for the build, and yeah, sometimes it's hard to not make everything look samey when I've used this yellowy gold quite a lot for everything. Everything's gold, everything's very pristine, and you know, I needed a bit of variation as well, so I think the pink and the sort of off-white beigey colour that we've got going on there works out quite well as well. Underneath the station I've just put a load of panels. We're going to have the queue line running in front of that. Had a quick crash there, and then back into it. So yeah, using some trims and some pillars so it doesn't look too samey, just having the brown panel wall everywhere. But like I say, there will be a queue line going in front of this, which I had several different iterations of before I made it actually work out. But at the moment I hadn't got that far. Looks like I had another crash there as well. I'm sorry that is cut out of the video. I went through the time lapse and yeah, it all seemed fine, but whatever. You can see my GBoss now screen there as well. So what are we doing then? Carrying on with some of the decorative trims, and I think these are all pretty good, just to give another extra layer of detail. Really, is sort of trims on trims on trims. I did say there's going to be a lot of trims in this build, and I think it works out quite good for this style. I think it's quite fun. Moving on then to the coaster layout, and it's sort of more compact than one of these would really be in the real world, I guess. I built it to 30 odd meters. Was it feet or meters? I think it's meters in this game. But yeah, I built it 30 high, and then just built some elements that I'd imagine you probably would get on a B&M coaster, but to a much smaller scale than what they would be, just because these big huge layouts are going to make the station look tiny the way I've done it, because I've tried to do the station fairly to scale, not just using the in-game wall pieces, which are huge. And yeah, I'm trying to keep the coaster layout itself to the same sort of scale as the station building, and I think it worked out fine. I'm not the greatest at building coasters, but the layout in this worked out fairly smooth. You know, I went back over it and did the smoothing technique, which is much easier now in this game because you can do it forwards and backwards and just keep clicking. You don't have to keep moving the pieces like in the old 4-meter trick in Planet Coaster 1. That used to take about 3 hours just to smooth a coaster. But in general, the coasters are a bit smoother in this game anyway, I feel. So yeah, I built an adequate coaster, and you'll see a POV of that at the end. You can see now I'm sticking a queue line in. It doesn't stay as it is, but when I do change the queue line layout, it's cut out of the time lapse because it just took way too long. I was spending absolutely ages trying to manipulate the path, and this is probably an unpopular opinion, but I do not like the new pathing system in this game. I don't think it's been implemented very well. I know you can do things to manipulate it and trick it, which is what I've had to do to get the path to go where I want it to, but why should it have to be like that? When I was trying to make the path run under itself, it said that there's a confliction and it just wouldn't do it for some reason, which is ridiculous because in a theme park you're going to have paths that run over and under each other, and it wasn't even that close. So yeah, I got rather frustrated with the pathing system in this build, but I did eventually manage to get it to do what I wanted by pulling paths off the grid using the trick with the advanced move tool and just placing them where I wanted and then forcing the game to let me put them there, basically. So the path does run under itself and back out because I didn't want it to go underneath the station like it was originally doing. There wasn't enough clearance for people's heads basically going under the station, and I just thought that wouldn't look very good, so I've rerouted it so it goes under itself and then back out the front of the station, and then it travels around the back when we get to that point. Now I'm doing some more detailing on the station itself. So on the front bit here I wanted a more sort of street level, kind of like row of facades, I guess. I don't know what you'd call this really, but you could probably get some shops in there or something, or I don't know, but it's really just for decoration. The only actual thing in a park is this coaster, the only usable thing, the only ride or attraction. So I had to go making these custom windows. They're actually really simple. A Viking window with a sticking out bit at the front, and just another Viking window, I believe, sunken into it, and it just works out perfectly. You can see what it's trying to resemble, and yeah, it's so easy to make different beams with the pieces in this game. Got some really great pieces actually. So I was trying to move a bin here for some reason, and yeah, it took me unreasonably long to find a piece that would fit into this spot that I wanted to put in there. It looks like I settled on one of them one of them pieces, but for some reason that worked out perfectly. And then in the middle I just end up placing a door, purely for show, just an aesthetical door. It doesn't work, it doesn't function as a door, it wouldn't need to. And I thought that this kind of netting style door would work pretty well for that. So that's pretty much it. That's the front section of this coaster station, and then I'm just doing a few more of the detaily bits, making sure that things aren't clipping through each other, and finishing off the parts that need to be done so that the guests do not fall down a hole or anything like that. So we do put fencing all around this queue line as well in just a sec. Quite, you know, fiddly doing some of these little details on builds like this, but you know, it's all part of it, I guess. It'd be nice sometimes, I feel like, if we could have things properly clipped to paths, so like fences just draggable on paths. That would be really handy. Not the in-game ones, so you can just clip any fence to a path. I don't really know why we don't have that. Next then, yeah, doing the fences, not being able to clip them to the paths. But, you know, it's not a problem doing it like this. I just think, you know, it could be so much easier. I'm sure that wouldn't be too hard to implement, I don't think. Moving on then to a dome, because you've got to have a dome on an Indian build. And start off, I started with this green one, wasn't too happy with the colours, so changed it to a dark pinky red, and then the green one gets moved onto the top of the tower instead, which I think it works pretty well. So we've got two matching ones with different colours that complement each other nicely, and it's basically made just using an aquatic piece, a big ball, I can't remember what that's for, maybe it's a buoy or something like that, and just sticking some trim pieces again around it using the traditional dome technique to get the shaping and hide some of the nuts and bolts and more mechanical looking bits that we obviously don't want on there. Then I used some of the Viking coins well, they were shields actually, but I used them as coins in my last build, and that's to get some of the gold shaping on top. So this little ball, this little spear, has way too many pieces, but I needed it. I couldn't think how else to do it. I couldn't find any other shiny balls anywhere that we could use. And then just sticking the spiry bit on top. Not the spire, but you know, the decoration that sticks out and makes it complete, really. So that's it. It's worth mentioning as well that I do actually blueprint this build, and I'm going to put it on the Steam Workshop. Not the Steam Workshop anymore, is it? The Frontier Workshop, as and when I get round to it, which I haven't at this point. But it's missing a few pieces because I kind of got to 4,000 pieces, and I thought, yeah, I want to put this on the workshop, but I haven't quite finished it yet, so I just deleted a few pieces, placed some sort of makeshift windows on a wall, and called it a day, really, because that's, you know, it will get into the high piece count, but it still looks like a complete build on the workshop, or it will do when it's up there. But there's a little more detail that gets added in this actual build, which you'll see at the end. So now I'm finishing off the station by duplicating everything all the way around, and then doing some floor tiles. Had to do some of these custom because the 4x4 ones just do not fit in the other side of the station, which I've always found rather annoying. I'm sorry, I do realise I've been moaning quite a lot about the game in this build, so apologies for that. I do like the game. I don't have that many criticisms, to be honest. It's just a few little things that are a bit frustrating at times. And then just polishing off the last few little details before we put the roof on. And that's it, we have our coaster station. Didn't take too long, did it? At this point then I decided it would be a good idea to do the pathing, so finish off the queue line and build some paths around the exterior. There's not an awful lot that I do really, other than the main buildings in this. We don't sort of extend it out very far, it's really just a bit of a diorama, you know, as if it could be part of a park. But I don't bother with, you know, the benches and the bins and everything like that. In this build I just keep it very straightforward, adding some path covers, well trimmed sort of sections to the paths, and a few trees, just so I could sort of set the scene for how it's going to look. And then I decided to place a fountain in the middle, which I think works out pretty nicely. And we got some reasonably good fountain pieces in the game, so I just customised them a bit, put some trims around the edge. I'm sick of saying trims now, don't play the trim drinking game. And sticking some water jets in the middle, or a water jet, and some bubbles. And that's about it really. I didn't go crazy with this fountain, just wanted to keep it pretty simple. You know, I didn't want to take away too much from the main building by doing anything else too in depth around the edge bit. Because sometimes, you know, it can get a little bit busy when you're placing stuff absolutely everywhere. So I kept, like I say, kept this simple. Path covers and flowers, foliage, all that good stuff. We don't actually have a tremendous amount of flowers in the game yet. I'm sure we'll get stuff like that in future DLCs. But there's enough to work with and to make a nice sort of tropical-ish sort of display of flowers there. Next then, I'm doing the transfer track, because I thought we'll add a little bit of realism to this coaster. I don't think we could do the actual transfer tracks or switch tracks or anything like that on this coaster type yet. In fact, I don't think we can do transfer tracks properly at all, like working ones, but it's still fun to have the idea that there's a transfer track here. I didn't build a maintenance shed for the train because I couldn't really think of how or where to put it without ruining the aesthetic of the whole build, so we're just having make-believe that the train will be pulled off by the transfer track and sit just to the side of the normal coaster track, which gets covered up later in the build. And I think that's fine. I mean, there's only one train running on this anyway, don't tell anyone I said that. You know, having a short station and everything and no mid-course brake run led to me not bothering with doing the two train thing. I don't think it really matters for this build. So, what are we working on now? I have done, or I am doing rather, some work on a building for the queue line and just to cover up some of the transfer track and stuff in the background, as this will sit sort of in front of the brake run. and tie the whole build together. So we've got a little bit of theming around the stations. It's not just a station on its own. Sort of giving the impression that there could be more of this themed area of the park around here. I think this all looks quite fun. Fairly straightforward to build, using a lot of the same pieces. Just using a plaster wall and putting some decals on it for a bit of detailing, like you would see in a real park. And then just trying to use a few different colours and a few different textures and stuff to give it variation. This I'm quite proud of. I made a custom roof thing. I don't know, a flat sort of spire. Can a spire be flat? Probably not. Quite tricky to build this one. You can sort of see how I did it. Made the shape of it once and then copied it all the way around. And decided I can't just use these little cubes the whole way because there'll be way too many pieces, so ended up finding a trim that worked. I did tell you everything in this build would be made by trims, so yeah, I felt like that was this is quite tricky to make but worth it because I get something with a custom shape. And yeah, I've sort of seen in a couple of other videos, and I think someone told me in the comments, it is easier now to make things mirrored using the rotation piece, I think it is, or the rotating moving platform. So you only have to do half the work when you're trying to mirror something. And so that's something that I might look into. I had a little go before and I couldn't work out how to do it for whatever reason. But now I've got a bit more experience in the game, I might go back and have a look next time I'm trying to do something like that, because it probably would be quite helpful to not have to build everything individually again. But there you can see I struggled through it and managed to make this shaped roof, and then I put a bit of trim and some fences around the top of it. I think that's the last time I'm going to say trim now in this video. Even if I need to say it again, I'm just going to say a different word instead. So I'm fed up with saying it. This then is the cover for the brake run, which is, yeah, pretty straightforward, using exactly the same pieces again, but giving them a little bit more height so there's enough clearance, enough headroom on there. And yeah, this nicely covers up the transfer track, and it's a believable enough cover for a brake run. I think it will keep people dry in the rain, and that's all it's needed for really. Obviously a lot of this is kind of covered up by the building in front from guest level, from down on the path, but you'll still be able to see some of it from the perspectives that we can see in game. Copying over the section that we already have then, and just placing some different windows in. I'm actually really pleased with how this turned out, and it was so simple to make, just sinking a different window in. It's not perfect because there are some bits that clip through other bits, but it's not that noticeable the way we've done it, and it looks a hell of a lot more detailed than it actually is. So yeah, I was really surprised actually how easily this style of theming came together in the game, and it's just so cool to play about with new pieces really and see what you can do with them. And there's still loads of pieces in the game that I've probably not even used or not even seen. We've got over 3,000 in here, and I've only just touched upon what we've got in the game so far. At some point I'm gonna have a proper look at all the rides, coasters and pieces, and just actually see what we've got in the game, so that I kind of know what I'm working with, because I've never taken the time to do that. I've just been too excited to build so far. But at time of recording, I believe we've got the free update coming tomorrow, which should be, no, not tomorrow, sorry, the day after, which should be the 12th of November. Normally those come with a DLC. Not heard any news about that as of yet. I'm sure there's some content creators who know more than I do, so we'll wait and see what happens on Thursday. I'm hoping for a DLC. but if not, even just a free update to fix some of the issues that we've got with the game at the moment would be really helpful. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this build. I will leave you with some cinematics at the end and a POV to enjoy. Hope you liked it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.